Welcome back to the channel. I'm Peter Melcray, a Dallas-based DP and gaffer, and in today's video, we're talking about overheating, specifically on hybrid mirrorless cameras. As you can see, this A7IV just turned off because it overheated. And the first thing you want to do is like, oh my goodness, let me see if I turn it off and turn it back on, what will happen? Sometimes you're good to go for just a little bit longer, and other times it just wants to turn right back off. What can you do? So there's some settings inside of most cameras that will help reduce it from overheating as much, and I'll go through those steps, but there's also a couple of accessories that can really help you out tremendously to cool off your camera and keep you shooting in warmer temperatures. Let's get into it. I'll be using a laser thermometer to check the ambient temperature and also check the temperature right back here, because this is where it usually gets the hottest when it comes to your camera, because most of the cameras are designed to have a heat sink right there to help cool the camera off. So let's go ahead and check the temperature of this mat right here, which should give us an ambient temperature, and we are getting a reading of around 68, 69 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's see what the temperature is here right before it shuts off, and that temperature right there is showing around 102, 109, 111. Yeah, that's pretty hot. So it is really warm to the touch as well compared to the ambient temperature. So that's a huge difference between the two, almost 40-degree difference between the two with the high and low readings. So that's pretty warm. So it really depends on where you're at and what your settings are. So there are a few things you can do to prevent your camera from overheating. And some of those things will take away features that you use. What I've noticed with the Sony A7IV is if you have a USB-C connected to it to give it some power, that warms it up. If you have an HDMI connected, that will warm it up too, whether you're going to an external monitor or if you're going into something like an ATEM. I've had it with camera sitting on a tripod and it overheated without even recording. Now also, higher frame rates and higher bit rates will consume more energy, creating a lot more heat. What you can do to help reduce that is choose one that works better for you, but that may not be an option. Now, if you do turn on airplane mode, it will shut off some of the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi functions on the camera, and that can help reduce the temperatures as well. Sony's also have a feature where you could have the automatic shut off be at a higher temp. They do say you run into a risk of causing damage when you do that, but a lot of people do it without issue. We're overheating again. It's so unpredictable. You could lose a long take, you could lose a presentation, you could interrupt the flow of an interview, and here it goes. It just turns off. So let's check what the ambient temperature is, and by measuring the mat first, and then we'll measure the actual camera itself, and we're getting as high as 115. So that's pretty warm. So let's see what happens if we try to turn it back on. Maybe we're lucky and we could just continue recording. So we're gonna turn it back on and we're going to hit record. That should solve it, right? Just turn the camera back on. Oh, nope, there it goes again. So that doesn't work. So another solution I like to do is I like to get a battery that hasn't heated up yet, that's nice and cool. And if you measure that, it's at 68 degrees, so it's at the ambient temperature. Pop that in, because the camera battery that's in there now, if I measure that guy, it's showing 88 degrees. Sometimes can get hotter than that. So that's pretty warm. Let's see if we're getting it fully. Yep, 89 degrees. So that's a warm battery. So swapping it out could be helpful, but that doesn't always work. Swapping batteries out constantly, you're still getting interrupted. So let's fire the camera back up and let's see what happens. Let's hit record. We've got to get this presentation. This is my only camera. I was a doofus. I didn't bring two cameras, or I'm in the middle of a wedding, and what's going to happen? So we're still pretty warm, and we're showing 110 degrees, and this thing will overheat in no time at all. So it's going to overheat. So what solutions do we have? So we could bring in a fan. So this is a ulanzi fan. This is their second version, and I wasn't really sold on these fans because the ones that they had before, other brands, and I've seen, you kind of have to stick something on, you have to make a whole little suction cup thing. I didn't really like that solution, but this one here is really nice because it clicks into place really well. So let's go ahead and get the temperature of it to show that it's not nice and cool. and it is showing at a 74 degrees, and we're overheating now. So let's click this guy into place, and then let's pop on the battery. Let's stop it from overheating. Here we go. Instantly turned it on to mode 1. You have 3 power modes, and the overheat warning is gone. That quick. So it can save you in a pinch, and you don't have to run it the whole time. If you want to be kind of retroactive, or you just kind of want to wait for something to happen and overheat and then you turn it on and use it, you could probably have this little battery that's an add-on accessory last quite a long time. Now, it doesn't only get powered by the battery. If you look here, there's a USB-C connection, and you could actually plug it in hardline to AC power, or plug it into a V-mount battery and get the fan to run full time at full blast. So we're going to crank it up to full speed, and we're going to see what kind of temperature difference we get with this system, so you can actually see how quickly it cools. I'm not going to cut this video. I really want to show you what's going on. So right now the fan is blowing and there's vents up here. So let's see what temperature those are at right now. So right now I'm catching a temperature of around 84 degrees. So that's a significant drop from what was actually on the camera, where we were getting 115 degrees on the camera itself. So we're down to 84 degrees, and the ambient temperature of the unit itself was around 68, 70 degrees for the ambient room temperature as well. So we are getting something happening there. This fan is getting a little bit warmer, but the actual camera is cooling down. So that combined drop in temp is really nice. Now, I read some reviews about this fan and this system, and people said it is cool to the touch. And I'm just like, they're lunatics. They probably live in the desert, and anything that's not 100 degrees feels cool to the touch. So I was like, there's no way. Well, let's measure the actual temperature on the back side of the fan. So I'm going to remove it now. I'm going to set it down right here, and we will measure that temperature. It will blow your mind. Look at that. 43 degrees. That is crazy. It's so crazy the camera can't handle it. It's wild. And now let's check the temperature of the back of the camera, and you see we're already down to 95 degrees. So it's already cooled off 20 degrees. And if we keep this running, it'll cool it off even more and make you have longer takes without overheating. Now, this system is really great. You have the option of a battery, but you can also add a V-mount battery with a USB-C connection, and just grab a USB-C cable, and now you have the ability to run it off of USB-C. So some people may not have as high-end batteries, or have options available where they have high output batteries. So a lot of the times when you have a battery, a V-mount battery, you have options on it for a USB-A style and USB-C. So if we look here, there's USB-A, which is the older style, and then you have USB-C. Well, the problem is USB-C things oftentimes are power delivery, and you're going to think, well, if I have an older style V-mount, will this power? So let's go ahead and put it to the test. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a USB-A plug, which a lot of times they're like 5 volts or something to that effect, and we'll connect it here. And what I'm going to do is remove the fan, remove this USB-C cable, and let's plug this guy in right here, and we're going to fire it up at full blast, and it's able to run at full blast through a USB-A connection. So how much draw are we getting? Well, let's find out. So I have this cool little meter right here, and what it's going to do is it's going to give me the ability to find out exactly how much draw I'm getting from this system. So I'm going to unplug it. I'm going to connect this in, and then it will tell me exactly how much draw I'm getting out of this system. So let me make it where we could capture it, and I'm going to start here. And we're running at 5.2 volts at 1.37 amps. And then I'll pump it up a little bit more, and we're doing at 5.2 volts, 26 volts at 1.6 amps. And then let's go all the way and see what kind of draw we're getting. So you can see that it is not drawing a lot of power. And I can tell you, I've had it running for a long period of time on a V-mount battery, and it doesn't really affect it too greatly. Now, your mileage will vary. There's a lot of factors in play, but what I'm trying to get at is if you don't want to get the added batteries that are attachable, you could always run it off of AC power, which is straight to a wall plug with USB-C, or you could run it off of a V-mount and build out a rig to make it work. So there are plenty of options for you. And if you have the ability or have the extra funds to be able to take advantage of the battery, it's really cool. It just clicks in and you're ready to go to fire it up. And you could always power it via a USB-C. So you have plenty of options. Now, they have different models and different versions available for most cameras, whether you're Canon, Sony, Nikon, Lumix, Panasonic, whatever it may be, they have options available. Now, something that you may consider and have to think about is fan noise. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off voice isolation so we can see exactly how loud it is. So my lavalier mic is right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to get ambient noise. So I'm just going to be nice and quiet and we can listen to that. And now I will turn on the first button. And then I will turn on the second. And then full power. Now, that's something to consider. Will you use this intermittently to bring down the temperature, maybe between takes? You could just power it up at full blast and bring down the temperature of your camera. Is it where you're at the back of a conference and that fan noise doesn't really make a difference? Or you're doing an interview. Now, in an interview, someone's not going to be this close to the camera. They're going to be further back. So that's something to think about. Does it really make a difference to you? I think it's more important to capture the moment than to have your camera turn off and overheat and you possibly lose a take or not even recognize that it turned off and you think that that camera is rolling. Like right now, I'm sitting here and while I was doing this video, one of the cameras, which the tight angle is another A7IV, and I didn't turn the fan on because I was like, oh, I may not want the noise, it may be too loud, and it actually shut off and turned off, and I knew immediately. I was like, it overheated. And that was like, ugh, one of those moments like, this is why I'm making this video. There, okay, this shut off because it overheated. I'm not even kidding. I remember back in the day, I would even attach a cup with ice and try to cool off the camera that way. Back in the day of the A6500, and I would get little fans and try to get them to blow on there and make weird kinds of attachments. This looks like it's part of the camera itself. It's really low profile, and what's really cool is it clicks in real easily. It has this amazing spring right here, and it has a little notch, and on the Sonys, it just clicks in and it stays in place. It doesn't want to just come off. You're not going to bump it loose. It is on there tight. You have to depress that spring to get it to come off. I'm so glad there's a solid solution for overheating now. There have been so many situations where I've been sitting there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm overheating. What can I do? I do all the tips and tricks that are normally recommended and I'm still overheating. And what do? I start fanning it. I start blowing on it. I just get in a panic to try to cool it off. I want to know if you've been in a situation like that and what you did to finally cool off your camera. Let me know down in the comments below. If you do like this type of content, behind the scenes content of actual shoots, lighting workshops, lighting breakdowns, grip, all that good stuff, well, maybe subscribe to the channel. And as always, YouTube says you need to click all this random stuff here. They've actually made a new rule where you can't even watch the channel until you've clicked one of those videos. It's a glitch or something. I don't know what it is. Well, it may not be true, but it doesn't hurt to click. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next one.